everybody, it's Master Gallengeist here, bringing you my review for Avengers Infinity War. And I really enjoyed this movie. And there's some kind of nitpicks that I have with it, but even though I have those, I think this is a pretty great movie all around. And even though it almost clocks in at 3 hours, I think it moves along at a very good pace and definitely juggles a staggering cast of people. And I say that because pretty much everybody who has been in a Marvel movie up until this point is in this film. And I don't feel that any character is really short-shifted or short-changed at all, which is a miracle in and of itself. I almost feel like Captain America's Civil War was kind of a training exercise to be able to handle this. And it's amazing that they were able to fuse various different kind of tones and peoples together and also switch up around different group dynamics to have all these kind of fun character interactions throughout the whole entire film. So, it starts off and we're pretty much beginning where Thor Ragnarok ended. We get a distress signal from the Asgardian refugee ship, and we see that Thanos has found them, and he is looking for the Tesseract, the Space Stone. And we see that he's talking to Loki. He's got his Black Order people throughout the ship, and he's pretty much monologuing to Loki about like his victories and everything, about him being Destiny. And he then drags Thor up there and goes, "You talk too much." And he, of course, says, "Alright, give me the stone or I'll melt your brother's head." As he already has the Power Stone. It's like, well, there goes Xandar. So, Loki's like, "Go ahead, kill away." But as he's doing it, Loki relents and is about to give him the Tesseract. He goes, "You forgot one thing. We have a Hulk." And then the Hulk comes in and starts wailing on Thanos. And Maul just goes, "Okay, never mind. Just let the Great Titan have his fun." And then we get a severe beatdown on the Hulk. And I don't know how much the Power Stone was affecting Thanos, but that's also a thing that gets into it, how Thanos is picking and choosing which stones to go after in what order. So, the thing is, the Hulk's going at him, but then Thanos is able to get at him and overpower him and just beat the crap out of him. Like, this is a fight that the Hulk loses, and he loses badly. So, we're getting there, and he's getting ready to pretty much take the other stone, and Heimdall summons the last of his powers to use the Bifrost to send the Hulk away. And, of course, Thanos is pissed off about that and then kills Heimdall. It's like, holy crap. So, that's one of the first major kind of unthinking permanent deaths. Of course, Loki gives him the Tesseract. He crushes it into the stone. Maul's talking about nobody's had the nobility or the might to not just wield one stone, but two, and then he puts it in there and he gets powered up. And, of course, Loki's talking about swearing his undying loyalty, but then he's about to try and stab Thanos, and Thanos grabs him and kills him. And before he does die, Loki says, "You'll never be a god." And then takes him out. It's like, crap. And Thor's like, "You'll die for that." Well, he'll die for what he did to Heimdall. And he's like pissed off about that. He goes, "Well, time to go." Uses the Power Stone to start blowing up the ship. Then uses the space to teleport him and his minions away. So it's like, holy crap, that's a big thing to go on now. Now we're starting to get into where the stakes are. So then we get into it, and we see that the Hulk is thrown into the Sanctum Sanctorum of Doctor Strange, as him and Wong are trying to just go out and get some lunch. And he crashes in and says that Thanos is coming as he's transforming back into Banner. It's like, holy crap, what's going to be going on? So then we get to Tony talking to Pepper in the park, talking about this dream that they had a kid and all that. Like, no. But then as they're doing stuff, Doctor Strange comes and says, Tony Stark, we kind of have a situation. Oh, congratulations on the wedding kind of stuff. And it's like, I'm sorry, who are you? And just seeing him like dealing with the fact that there's a Sorcerer Supreme wizard kind of thing was funny. And then he really takes it kind of seriously, figuring out what's going on. He's like, alright, why don't we destroy the Time Stone? And he's like, no, we're charged, we charge an oath to protect this stone. It's like, yeah, if it's a thing that we can use, it's a thing that Thanos can use. We need to take it out. And Tony's a big kind of part in this. Now, granted, there's a lot of them, but you see a lot of growth of where he started out and where he is now and what he's thinking of. This is the day that he's been dreading since the Avengers first formed in the first attack on New York. So they're thinking, all right, we got to get a handle on the Mind Stone that's in Vision, but he turned off his tracer and his transponder, so they don't know how to contact him. And of course, Banner's like, why don't you call Steve? And he's like, well, we broke up. He's like, broke up like a band? Like the Beatles? Come on, Tony, talk to him. And this is a big thing to bring the Avengers back together. So as he's about to call, he noticed some weird things going on, and Strange's hair's moving. He's like, you're not moving your hair right now, are you? He's like, no, I'm not. So they go outside and they see one of the ships is over New York. Just holy crap. And they're going to have to get ready to deal with it. And, of course, we see Spider-Man on a bus. He's like, oh, crap. He's like, hey, dude, I need you to cause destruction. He's like, oh, my God, it's a spaceship. We're all going to die. So all the kids go to one side. Peter goes out. This is where we see the Stan Lee cameo going, it's a spaceship. We've seen it already before. And Peter's going off to join them and try and help out as he can. So we see Strange and Wong and Banner and Tony go to the ship, and we see Maul and Cull Obsidian expounding the greatness of Thanos and everything and wanting the Time Stone, and Tony's like, yeah, no, that's not going to happen and everything. And he's trying to get Banner to get up into the Hulk, but the Hulk's not showing up. He's like, well, Wong, take care of him. I kind of got this. And we see Tony's armor for the movie, the Bleeding Edge armor, and this is one of the armors I was excited for, because this is probably my favorite armor. At first, it was probably the Extremis armor, but this one is what I've been waiting for. This is the culmination of Tony's efforts, seeing the nanoparticles come out and everything, and all the crazy shit he can do with it. And we get the fight as they're trying to protect the Time Stone from Maw and Obsidian. And they pretty much get Banner away into the park and all that, and Tony kind of gets blasted into the park by Cull Obsidian's axe. So he's like, come on. And the Hulk still won't come out. He says no to Banner. He's like, what the hell? Figuring out what's going on. And, of course, while Tony's about to get, kind of beat up, we get Spider-Man comes and says, hey, Mr. Stark, what's going on? He's like, want to give me a kind of lowdown? Well, these guys are from space and they want to steal a necklace from a wizard. And at this point, Doctor Strange has gotten pretty much captured by Maw, but his cloak has pretty much gotten him flying around the city. So he's like, hey, that's the wizard. Get on him, kid. He's like, all right, Mr. Stark. And then just goes after him, and he gets sucked up. Both Parker and Doctor Strange get sucked up into the ship. Well, Parker's more on the outside. Strange gets sucked up. So Tony's like, all right, kid, you kind of have to get out. This isn't a thing for you. He calls in for this thing from Avengers HQ. It comes out and it's this Iron Spider armor. And it's really opportune because Peter passes out because he's like, oh yeah, I can't breathe. And then it gets on him and he's like, oh, this is really cool. And he's like, all right, Friday, get out of here. He's like, what? Oh, come on. But, of course, Spider-Man is able to stay on the ship and he gets into it. So does Tony, and Tony's last thing to Pepper is her yelling at him to get off that ship. But, of course, he's got to do this to take on Thanos and everything. So that's kind of where we're left off with them at the moment. We then get to the Guardians of the Galaxy, kind of puttering along space and all that. And they're going, yeah, we got to answer this distress call. Because who knows, they could give us money, or if they don't pay us, we can take their ship. Even though Peter is saying one thing to his crew, and the other thing to Gamora, so that way he's still on good terms with her. That's cool, kind of seeing adolescent Groot kind of playing video games and Quill trying to be the kind of dad. Same with Rocket too. I'm like, stop that. Okay. So they get to the distress call, and this is, of course, for the Asgardian ship. I'm like, oh god, what happened here? Then, of course, that's when Thor smacks onto the ship, and Rocket's like, wipe it off, wipe it off. But then, of course, his eye opens, and this is where one of the cool character interactions come into play. They're looking at him, they're making jokes at expense for Quill, how manly Thor is versus him himself, and him trying to put on the airs of the captain. Mantis, of course, wakes him up and goes, who the hell are you guys? And he starts kind of like doing the lowdown about what's going on, and they trying to figure out what's going on. He finds out that Gamora is the daughter of Thanos, and at first you think he's gonna like go for her or whatnot. But he goes, I know the stuff about family too, and they kind of start comparing stuff. Quill is trying to puff his stuff up as well. And at one point, mocking Thor's voice and all that, he wants to go and take one of the pod because he needs to go and get a weapon to kill Thanos and everything. And, you know, alright, I'm like, where are you gonna go? Only place that would make good enough weapons. Nidavellir. And I'm like, yes, the Dwarven Realm! Ha ha ha! And I'm like, yes, how's this gonna work? So, he kind of gets into a good rapport with Rocket, who he keeps calling Rabbit throughout the movie, but I don't think Rocket really, takes that as an offense. At first, people would usually call him that kind of stuff to get under his skin. But as the movie goes on and Thor keeps calling him Rabbit, I think Rocket kind of sees it as a term of endearment, and Thor isn't trying to do it to be an asshole to him. So they kind of come up with the effect that, alright, Gamora knows that Thanos is making the play for the stones. They gotta check nowhere, because Thor's going, well, he's got the power, because he took out Xandar. He's got the space, took the Tesseract. Last one known would be the Reality Stone, which would be with the Collector on nowhere. Other two are safe on Earth. Soul Stone, don't know where it is. So that's the logical point to do. So Thor and Rocket and Groot go off to Nidavellir to create a Thanos killing weapon, while the rest of them are going off to nowhere. We see that as they're on their way to nowhere, Gamora tells Peter that he should swear on his mother that if Thanos gets her, that he kills her. He's like, alright, I'll do that. It's a weird request for him, but she's very serious about it. Okay, what's going on here? We then flip over to an update of what's going on with Tony and Strange, and, well, first we get into Vision and Wanda. They had evidently been making secret rendezvous and are in Scotland, and they're about to kind of like go back to their respective teams, but they get ambushed by two other members of the Black Order to retrieve the Mind Stone from Vision. And it's an intense kind of fight. Vision can't phase with their weapons and what they're using, so he gets pretty much severely wounded, so Wanda's got to be the one to kind of use her powers pretty awesomely to try and protect them, but they get smashed out to this kind of train station, and right as they're kind of getting closed in, we see someone appear in the background, and one of them throws their staff at him, and it's Steve Rogers, man, coming in, and him and Nat and Falcon coming and just kind of kick some ass. They almost take out one of them, and Nat's like, listen, we're not going to kill you, we're not killing you right now, but that doesn't mean we won't. She's like, well, one of the Black Order's like, well, you won't have the chance again, as they disappear, and they're going, alright. They got the call, so they're going to go home, and they head off to the Avengers place. Yeah, I don't remember, well, it's not a mansion, it's the Avengers complex that Tony's got. So, then we switch over, and we see what's going on with Strange, Tony, and Peter. Tony's trying to figure out what's going on. Maul is trying to torture Strange to giving him the Time Stone. And he sees the cloak. It's like, oh, okay, guess I'm going to have your help. And Peter's still in there. He's like, you shouldn't have come here, man. That's why I wanted you off here. And he's going, alright, fine. Whatever. Your team's in trouble. What's your plan? He goes, alright, have you seen this really old movie, Aliens? And I'm like, yep. So, Stark pretty much makes a distraction as they're going, alright, yeah, But they could see more movies, and they they just blow a hole in the ship and pretty much suck the dude out while Peter uses the new kind of capabilities in his iron spider suit to rescue Strange, and they pretty much figure out what's going on. They're like, okay, we're going to meet Thanos. What's our game plan? So Strange wants to go back to Earth, but Stark's like, listen, I've been planning for this and knowing about this for years. Wouldn't it be better if we had the element of surprise on Thanos' turf rather than having him come to our turf? And Strange's like, okay, but I'll let you know. If it comes down to saving you or the kid or keeping the stone safe, you're both kind of screwed. And I'm like, oh, this is kind of interesting seeing them butt heads because they both think of themselves as the only ones who have the knowledge to protect the Earth and reality and the universe. So it's kind of cool seeing that. So that's where they're left off before they get to the planet. We get to nowhere, and they go in, and we see that Thanos has the Collector and is trying to get to the Reality Stone. And Quill's trying to do a kind of plan, but everybody pretty much ignores him. Drax attempts to try and go into Thanos, but Mantis makes him go to sleep, but he thuds down, kind of alerting Thanos, but not exactly to where their presence is. And Gamora just goes and stabs him in the throat and stabs him in the side with this blade that we've seen in a flashback that she'd been given. That evidently Thanos took pity on her on one of the planets that he goes and he wipes out half the population and had her as his daughter. And that's an interesting motivation that we see for Thanos throughout the movie. He's not doing this for power. We see throughout that his planet was overpopulated and destruction and ruin occurred. So he thinks that balance is a must. And that balance must be at any means necessary. And thus he needs the Infinity Gauntlet with all the Infinity Stones to wipe out half of the universe so that, because the universe is finite, resources are finite. Granted, he goes into that more in depth in the movie, but I think it's a great motivation, and he is a very good and compelling villain here. And that he's really kind of fleshed out, and I can't wait to see what continues on with the next movie. So, it looks like she has killed Thanos, but of course he has already gotten the Reality Stone, and of course he uses it to incapacitate Drax and Mantis, and he has Gamora, and she begs Quill to do it, and he shoots at her, but of course he has control of reality now, and it just Bubbles comes out and he goes, I like you. And then he takes Gamora away. It's like, crap. How's this going to work out? We then find that Thor and the rest of them have gotten the Nidavellir, but unfortunately the Forges are gone. They're gone silent. They're dark. Now before this, we've gotten a little bit more information on Thor. Rocket really bonds with him. He talks about all the pain that he's got, how he's 1,500 years old, and Rocket feels pity on him and gives him one of the robotic eyes that he has, and Thor just pops him and goes, oh, I would have cleaned that first because I had to smuggle it out my ass. But they get to Nidavellir and they're like, what's going on? They're walking through, and this is where we see Tyrion as Eitri? It's really weird how to say his name, but he's the last king, he's the last dwarf, and he's the last king, and his hands have been taken because he made the Infinity Gauntlet to house the stones for Thanos. He's like, well, your life is yours, but your hands are mine. And it really kind of sucks, but he's going, okay, listen, I understand that Thanos took your hands, but you got the brain power for all of this, for the forging, you've got all of those things in your head. We need to make me a Thanos killing weapon. We can all do this if you help me. Alright. Because Eitri was like, you're supposed to protect us. And he's like, listen, we got hit by Thanos too. Otherwise we would have been here for you, man. We got hit by a Ragnarok, and then we got hit by this, and it's just, it sucks seeing both of these characters who have suffered loss kind of just deal with that loss kind of on each other, but they get to that point and they're like, alright, help me out with this, and we'll do this. And it was also a kind of funny thing that we understand that Thor had taken language lessons for Groot species, so he understands what he's talking about. What he's talking about when he says, "I'm Groot." I'm like, all right, cool. And Groot's just playing his game, like, fine, whatever. So now that we know that that's going on, we then switch over to, of course, where we see Gamora and Thanos talking about what's going on. He's making his play for his next stone, which is the Soul Stone. He, of course, is explaining more of his motivations, how he loves, well, he doesn't directly say that he loves Gamora, but builds upon why he loves her so much, because of how strong she is, how fearsome she is, everything he taught her. So he's like, listen, I'm not disappointed that you didn't find it. I'm disappointed that you found it and you lied to me. Because then we go in and we see that Nebula has been captured because she tried to assassinate him. Almost succeeded. And he's using her to get the information from Gamora, because she had told Nebula that she found the map and burnt it. And he pretty much uses the stones to torture Nebula until she goes, all right, it's on Vormir, let's go. So they go to Vormir, and this was a pretty big and pivotal kind of moment, because we built up the relationship that Thanos and Gamora have. They get up there, and you're like, listen, for your sister's sake, better be here. They get up there, and we see that this person at first, who we don't know, talks about Thanos, and says his lineage, Gamora, daughter of Thanos. I see you seek the Soul Stone, and we find out that it's the Red Skull. And I was like, holy shit, that was a big reveal, because evidently the Tesseract had teleported him here to a stone that he couldn't possess. Like, what's going on here? He goes, well, the Soul Stone has a sort of wisdom to it, and that this is how you get it. He leads him to an edge and says, well, you need a soul for a soul, so you gotta sacrifice the one you love. And, of course, Gamora first is laughing, thinking that, Thanos, you love nothing, but he starts crying, and he takes her, and he throws her off. She, of course, tried to kill herself to stop this, but this was another death that I'm pretty sure is permanent, and it's a pretty big thing. I think that her, after a certain point in the movie, that her soul is also in the Soul Gem, because Thanos does it, he gets sucked up, and then he's down, and he has the Soul Stone and puts it on the Infinity Gauntlet. So he's like, alright, I gotta make my way to the next portion. We see that Nebula makes her way out of Thanos' place and tells Mantis to meet her on Titan, because that's where one of the next stones would be. It's like, okay, cool. So that's getting everything else connected together. We see that Thor then makes up his new Stormbreaker axe, which is really pretty cool. And the way he does it is he restarts the forge, and he has to hold open the gates, having to take the power of the star. And I think that kind of puts a little bit of him into what's going on with Stormbreaker as well. So they're able to make it. Groot makes the handle for him and all that, and he needs the hammer, well, the axe, to keep himself alive from taking all that power from the star. And this is one fit for an All-Father, because it has not just the power of that, but also the power to control the Bifrost. And that's where they're at for that portion. We also then see that Steve Rogers has gotten to the Avengers compound. Rhodey has decided to say screw the bureaucracy and everything, because they need to move fast and nimble. This is why the Sokovia Accords, while doing some good oversight for the Avengers, wasn't really the best option. So Rhodey goes AWOL. They have to figure out how to get the stone out of Vision's head without killing him. So Rogers is like, alright, I got a place. So they take him to Wakanda, and we see that Bucky's back up. He's got his new arm and everything, and they're like, alright, we got him ready for battle. We get Banner introduced to Shuri, and she's like, okay, why didn't you do it this way? Like, well, we didn't think about it. Alright, this will take a little time, just buy me as much as you can. So they get prepared as, of course, all these bogeys start coming in, and we've got Proxima and Obsidian Call, who had been banished to like the snowy portion, coming in, and they got all these just essential dog soldiers that they just start throwing at Wakanda, and we just see all this cool stuff going on as Rogers, Bucky, T'Challa, Sam, and War Machine, just start beating the shit out of these things, because at first they were trying, and Banner in the Hulkbuster armor, since the Hulk's not coming out. And they have to strategically fight these things because it's like just waves, just cannon fodder. And I like how they were charging up front, and we see Rogers and T'Challa just running together, and Rogers is on his left, but he's keeping pace with them and everything. And it was just awesome as they're just fighting, but they're getting so beat down. That's, of course, when Thor makes his entrance here and starts turning the tide as they're just, like, beating the crap out of it, and he's, like, yelling for Thanos and all that. He's got Rocket with him. He's got Groot with him. We see these kind of cool character moments as he's like, oh, I see you changed your hair. He's like, oh, I see you copied my beard and everything. He's like, oh, meet my tree friend. He's like, I am Groot. And he's like, I am Steve Rogers. And he's like, yeah, there you go, Steve. So they're kind of getting the battle a little bit more under control, but we see that one of the other Black Order has snuck behind to try and get Vision Stone. But of course they hear about it, and Banner tries to go up and stop him from linking up with Cull Obsidian. So Banner's able to take out Cull, but Steve, of course, gets back there to help Vision take out the other guys. So it's like, okay, cool. This is where it kind of intersects the end of the Titan storyline, because Quill and the rest of his group link up with Tony and the rest of his group, and they formulate a plan where Strange was able to see into the futures, like over 14 million of them, and find one scenario where they would. And Thanos, of course, has come there to get the Time Stone, which is a pretty smart idea, because then, if anything was, I don't know, say to happen to the Mind Stone, he could reverse it. So we get this long, protracted battle between Thanos and our group, and they almost win. They almost pull off the gauntlet, but Peter, of course, is gloating, and Mantis is pretty much incapacitating Thanos. And we find out that he finds out that Gamora's dead and loses it and beats crap out of him. But of course, this allows him to get back into power and pretty much beat the crap out of everybody else. Tony unleashes some pretty cool-ass moves with his armor, but is unable to take the brunt of Thanos' now Infinity Stone-empowered self, and gets stabbed in the side, but Strange calls for mercy and says, I will give you the stone, no tricks, if you just spare Tony. Alright. And then he does, and Tony's like, why did you do that? He goes, pretty much in the end game now kind of thing, and of course, Tony's kind of like getting himself back together, so Thanos goes to Earth and is getting into it to get the Mind Stone. Of course, Wanda had been on the field, and we find out that she's the only one that can destroy the Mind Stone, because her and her brother had derived her powers from it. So, the rest of the group tries to hold off Thanos, and Wanda is able to destroy the stone, but of course Thanos uses the Time Stone to reverse it, takes it, and puts it in. And that's when Thor kind of busts in and throws his axe at him, and it takes him in the chest, and he goes, I told you I was going to kill you. He's like, you should aim for the head. And then Thanos snaps his fingers, and he, of course, goes into the Soul Realm and sees Gamora, and she says, well, did you accomplish it? And he's like, yes. And she's like, what did it cost you? Everything. And Thanos is kind of beaten down. Granted, this is the first main movie that we've seen him in, but we see that all these losses, all these people that he's lost, like he loses all of his Black Order people. He loses the daughter that he lost. And we'll have to see how that affects him, because after it gets him back from that, even though he still had the axe in his chest, the gauntlet is just kind of burnt up and everything, and you see some burn marks on his arm and everything, and he teleports away, so Thanos won. Now, I do have some issues with that, but we'll kind of get to that after we get into the fallout of that. Because then we start seeing everybody start to disappear. We see half of the population of the universe die. We see some big ones of like Bucky, Drax, Groot, Mantis, Wanda, Spider-Man, Quill, Strange, T'Challa, and Wilson disappear. And everyone's like, oh my god. It's big. Now, these don't really freak me out because I know how these things work. The only permanent ones that I believe are going to be happening are Loki, Heimdall, and Gamora. those taken up the Infinity Gauntlet will be returned in the next one. This was the one that Thanos was supposed to win, and I like how he got to it. Then, of course, we get to the end credits scene, and we see that everything's going on with Fury and Hill, and we find out that Hill gets disappeared as well, and right before Nick Fury disappears, he puts in a call into one of his things and brings up the call of Captain Marvel. Now, I'm kind of confused as to how there's going to be 2 movies in between this one and the next one, but I've heard that Captain Marvel is going to take place in the 90s, and I would think that Captain Marvel would have been a big gun to be called in for this kind of thing going on, because Thanos and the Infinity Gauntlet's a big kind of thing, but then, of course, Fury's the only one who knew about her. So we'll kind of have to see about that. And then 2 other things that kind of messed with me. Wanda's powers are derived from the Mind Gem, or the Mind Stone. Couldn't she have just kind of manipulated Thanos' mind like Mantis in order to gain control of him and take the Infinity Gauntlet? That's kind of my biggest kind of nitpick. Another kind of thing that happened is Quill is half Celestial. Now, granted, I know that doesn't inoculate him completely over a matter, but I thought it would be kind of harder for him to be affected by the Infinity Stones in this kind of way, since he had extragalactic kind of genes within him. So those are my only kind of like bigger gripes. Other than that, I love the team interplays of everybody kind of coming together. Found it interesting that mainly the first roster of the Avengers were the only ones left standing. I liked how we got into a point where Hulk was afraid to come out and Banner was more asserting himself. So hopefully we'll see the Hulk come back into play in the next Avengers movie. So we'll see what kind of falls out from that, because I'm ready to see a SmackDown with Thor and Hulk teaming up and just beating the holy shit out of Thanos. You know? But that's not how getting the Infinity Gauntlet away from Thanos is going to go. It's going to have to be smarter than that. So what really is interesting is going to see how Tony is able to get back to Earth, since it's only him and Nebula. Though they'll probably use Quill's spaceship to do that. And just, it went into an interesting place. It was truly an epic movie because of all the Avengers involved and all the events that happened and where it's setting up for what's going on to happen next. So I really liked it. I thought they did a great job with character development and interaction with people. I don't think anybody was really short-shrifted. And my only gripe is that there's going to be 2 other Marvel movies in between this one, only because of how this one ended. It's kind of going to be hard to see how they're placed. I hope that Ant-Man and Wasp probably take place before these events as well, so that way it doesn't produce any weird continuity kind of stuff, kind of similar to Captain Marvel. So, another thing that happened kind of with Captain Marvel is that Fury is disappearing right as he's sending that. What would have happened if she had randomly been picked to be snapped as well? I don't know. Granted, they're in control of the plot, so they can plot armor whoever they want. So we'll kind of have to see where this goes. But I'm really excited for it. I think they did a really good job of presenting the epicness of this cosmic event and doing it in a great way with a great villain who I hope we get to see the culmination of his journey and in a satisfying way. So those are my opinions on the movie. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. If you liked it, if you didn't like it, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me. Also like and subscribe, and I hope you have a good day.